Have you ever seen a boulder wall and thought to yourself, man, that looks so awesome. I wonder how many millions of dollars it would cost for a landscaper to build me a boulder wall. Well, great news. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 easy steps where you can build your own boulder wall, and it's not going to cost you $1 million either. The video starts right now. Step 1 is the dirt work. You need to define a space of where you actually want your wall to begin. I used this fire pit that kind of had a natural sort of hill, semicircle type of area. I also used 5/8 garden hose to kind of lay out my pattern. It's a little bit scattered right there, but that's what I used kind of to initially get the shape of the wall that I actually wanted. I wanted it to wrap around the fire pit in a way where it kind of created sort of this semicircle sort of arc. And again, the ground was naturally sort of sloping that way anyway, so it wasn't that much of a stretch to envision the actual shape that I want in my wall. But this is important when you are planning out your wall and where you actually want it to be. If you have sort of a natural berm or whatever, you have to dig into it. And the tools I used were just sort of a flat spade, shovel. That big rock at the end, that was too big for me to move. So that was going to be my end point of my wall right there, because it was just sort of naturally sitting there. So yeah, it's a lot of shovel work. You can easily do it by hand. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not really too bad. And that leads us to step number 2, which is crushed rock and stacking the boulders. I got a load delivered, and I would highly recommend some sort of a wheelbarrow or a 4-wheel garden cart like I'm using right here, because you have to transport a lot of it and you need to be able to dump it into place. So this makes it a whole lot easier. So this is the base layer of the crushed rock. As you can see, I'm starting with a base layer of this. I think it's mostly for drainage purposes rather than just setting the boulders in the dirt itself. That could lead to just sort of a muddy situation there. I'm giving it just kind of a base layer of the crushed rock. This will sort of keep the boulders up off the ground a little bit and act as sort of a good foundation to start building from. And I'm going to continue doing this around the entire fire pit area, or the entire distance of the wall. And we're on to stacking boulders. I chose rocks that I could move by hand because I don't have a skid loader. So I'm dealing with things that are about bowling ball size. And you'll also see that I have landscaping fabric that I'm using to put behind the boulders. That's going to prevent weeds from growing through the wall, and it's going to prevent any kind of dirt or crushed rock or anything from flowing through the front of your wall after it's constructed. So again, we're transporting more crushed rock, because after that first row of boulders, what you're going to do is actually backfill the entire area with crushed rock, as you can see in this clip right here. So again, going from the face of the wall, we're dealing with boulders, and then we're going to do about 12 inches of crushed rock going straight back. And then we're going to get into the dirt. The crushed rock is going to help with water flow. As water kind of flows through the ground and kind of moves through that wall, it just kind of breaks up a little bit and prevents a giant amount of wet dirt from pushing out on your wall by giving it that crushed rock barrier that'll let it flow through a little bit better. On to step 3, which is finalizing the top row. Now, every other row that you've built prior to this relies on the weight of the rocks to hold them in place. But the top row is different because there's nothing on top that's going to hold these rocks into place. And as you can see from me going down and kind of giving them a little bit of a wiggle, they are going to be loose. So that's where the Loctite PL500 landscape construction adhesive comes into play. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work my way around the entire wall, find the loose rocks, and I'm just going to give a little dab of adhesive just to give them a little bit extra hold in case you're walking along the top of the wall, or you're trying to mow or weed whip around the top. You don't want to be hitting those rocks and kind of upsetting them. They will move. Again, there's really nothing holding them there. It's just sort of a gravity stack type situation. Now, one trick that I like to use is wiggling the rock itself when it's in place. And after you pull it back, you can see sort of a white outline or a friction point of where that rock is actually contacting those others. From there, I can easily just take my PL500 Loctite adhesive, and I can easily apply the adhesive exactly where I need it. And then I put that rock back into place, and it's a perfect fit every time. And just like that, the wall is complete. Once you finish that top row, you're going to want to rake some soil back over the top and kind of level things off, plant some grass and let that grow in. And then that is your finished boulder wall. It looks awesome. It's important to remember that boulder walls are more of an art than they are a science. They do not fit perfectly. You know, there are mistakes here and there, but that's part of the charm of it. Mix up your colors. I try to get some good blues and some reds in there. You know, it's not perfect. The rocks are different sizes, but when you put it all together, it looks really good, and that's the goal. That's what you're going after. So don't obsess over everything fitting perfect. It's not a puzzle necessarily. It's going to be imperfect, but once it's all assembled, it looks absolutely fantastic, and you're going to be so happy with the results. It looks great, and it's a great way to complement the fire pit and finish it off. One more disclaimer that I would like to make is that it is a lot of work to build a boulder wall. It's a lot of moving rocks around and the gravel, and it's heavy on the manual labor. And to those observant viewers, you'll notice that the exterior house color actually changes from the end of the video from the beginning. That's because this project actually took me a few summers to complete and finally get around to finishing up. But that being said, I know that if I can do it, you absolutely can do it. So get out there and start stacking those rocks.